We're live. Woohoo! Let's do this. What up? Good morning. Monday. Woo! Hope you had an amazing weekend. Please subscribe if you want more of this stuff. Let's check out what happened. Okay, so my friends. Wow, yeah. I spent over the weekend, I just spent some amazing time just trimming and pruning my system down and honing it in and just dialing it in, and also working on elements of the course I'm creating and getting more of an idea of that, but I'll talk about that later. So check this out. We got in around here because it had come down and it pulled back into that first bar, right? And there was a couple overbought areas, and we ended up getting in here, and then I got out a little early, right? So I figured out the beautiful system of trade management here, and that is when you get in here, you just leave it all, no target or anything, you just let it do its thing, and if it keeps going, all right, you let it go, 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 let it go. And so if it keeps going and it never turns the bar this way, then at 12, that's when you pull it off. Just boom, immediately. Just 12, you pull it off. That seems to be a pretty solid spot of averaging where sometimes it just dies at 12. Sometimes it starts kind of wiggling back around at 12. Sometimes it might keep going at 12, but on average, the average kind of point, it's a decent spot to exit at 12. So not too much reason to stay in longer. And because more often than not, it doesn't really help your position. So if it does change a bar, right, like it changed around 33, right, then what do? You start trailing behind the last swing. So you trail it here, right, and then it keeps going, and then you're out. So here's what's up. Sometimes when it changes bar, right, it's just a big pullback, and then it keeps going. So you don't want to just jump out. You want to start trailing. And if it turns, like there's some days where it turns, keeps going, then it allows you to stay in on those days. A beautiful thing, right? So you're able to capture having those pullbacks and keep going. Big pullbacks too. But in this situation, if it keeps pushing back, like there's other days where it comes down and then it literally turns around and goes the other way, then you get out at a logical kind of area to exit. It's reasonable, right? And you still capture this whole run right here. So that's what I came up with. I thought it was super cool. Wanted to share with you guys. All right, so moving on to the overnight. All right, so we have Tokyo, right, bumped up. And now we've got this overnight with from London, from Tokyo, London. All right, so let's see here. Right, so this all transpired, Tokyo and then London. So we got this big push upwards, right? So it looks like, Aja, do you want to go outside? Is that what you want? It's cold right now. Do you want to go outside? She's like, it snowed over the weekend. She's experienced snow for the first time. It's pretty interesting for her. Yeah, I don't know what she knows what to do. She's like, oh no, I don't know what to do about that. Actually, I'm going to switch microphones. Switch microphones. Alright, so What up? Okay, so this should be a way better. All right. Yeah, so. All right, so we got 4 minutes, and let's see here. So, okay, so let's see. We've got this. Let's just draw like a line like this, right? Something like that. Like this is a strong freaking trend up. So let's start. Oh God. All right, so we have fib. We got this thing here, right? So the break up would be right here. We've got a couple more minutes. Let's see what happens. Ooh. We're going to have our stop back here around 51. We're ending around 52. That's like hardly anything at all. All right, let's get rid of this thing. Yeah, you can see this is just a huge move up, like a lot of points. 53, maybe like 15 points, almost 20. Okay, so it moved up. We're at 28. Man, that's the thing. I was looking at that. I'm like, should we have gotten in this thing? We're 30 seconds away.
Order rejected. Order filled.
Okay, we got in around where we were trying to get in. So we're gonna just trail this. I'm going to basically look for this thing to just push up, and then, I don't know, once it starts to kind of like top off or whatnot, I don't know. Maybe I'll just, this could be a pump, you know. Oh, yeah. But we did have a setup for, yeah, I'm going to stick with this train. I don't want to like, this is a huge trend and everything, so. I'm just going to pull this in just because that was a strong pump.
Stop filled.
So if this ends up just pump blasting down after that pump, then, you know, I don't want to be in that. So it looks like I trailed maybe too tightly. Like I should have just kept it behind these swing points, right? Instead of bringing it into break even, right? So I have to create a positive wiring around, like, look what happens when we keep our stop behind the swing points, the swing lows right here. it allows for the trade to work out naturally to the upside when it's in this strong trend. If we start to tighten into that, we're being too compressed in our trading. We're creating too tight of a cage, and the market ends up getting chopped up, like the roots get cut off. Like you want to hold space for the roots to naturally grow so that the trunk can grow and the branches can grow higher. If you cut off the roots, then the tree can't grow anymore. I went to this on Friday. I went to a fundraising event for the Utah Permaculture Guild, and yeah, I mean that's all that was about, was working with nature. And that's the essence of permaculture, how to work with nature rather than against it. And I think that there's a lot of analogies in trading to nature where I look at these as trees, right? That's why I don't I don't have a target on. I just have a stop, and I think of the stop as sort of like, you know, when you're growing a plant or a tree or like a plant indoors, you have it in a pot, but you don't necessarily. I mean, you can put certain types of cages and stuff around it to tend to it, but a lot of times you want to leave the top uncaged to allow it to just sort of grow how it organically wants to grow. But you keep a pot in it to help kind of hold space for the soil. But you want to make sure that the pot is the right size. You know, here you put too small of a pot, it'll stunt the growth of the tree. If you put the right pot size, then it allows the tree to grow naturally and reach its, you know, natural size or potential, right? Just like here, you naturally just put the pot gently behind the market and allow the market to grow naturally. And then when it's kind of settled, as you bring in the pot, right, it kind of concludes. It's like, oh, that you just kind of captured its growth, right, in that direction. I made $7. So yeah, I mean, that's the difference between chopping it off. We chopped it off early here, made $7, right? That's what happens when you stun its growth. But you let it run, and you're able to capture much more. pretty amazing though how much like the trains method just works it's so far I've seen it work every freaking time. That if there's a direct move, or if there's a direct trend overnight, then it just continues in that direction in the open. It uses the momentum and there's all this potential energy of buyers and sellers and all that here, and they just, you know what I mean? They just carry it onwards. It might not go very far, like it might only go 5 points or 4 points, or it might go 10, or it might go 20. It varies. It could turn into a huge trend for the day, or it could just be a big pop like this or something like that. You know what I mean? But um, but it always does it. It's so interesting. So I think the natural development would have been to trail here, and then we'll see if it creates a swing at some point here. I think the tricky part for me is to trust just trailing, that it works in some way. Yeah. Because I always used to imagine, like, when these things pop up, like, taking profit here or here or here, it's not bad. Like, that's decent profit, right? And then you let it swing all the way back down. You're like, and you've got your stop back here. You're like going from profit to potentially losing, right? And that's just I think that's a difficult thing to face as a trader. And then when it comes up here, right, you stop here, this is still, or like break even, right? So it would be going from like almost like 7 points of profit or more, over 7 points of profit for like, is that 7? Yeah, it's like 7 points of profit or more than 7 points of profit. So like 0, right? And that's a hard thing, I think, as a trader to come to terms with. Because it's like the way our brain interprets all of this is when you're up here, your brain feels like it's gained that profit. Even though you haven't banked it, it feels like it thinks about, look what I've gained. So that's how it interprets it, is I've gained this much, or I've gained this much. Oh wow, look, we gained this much. So then when it comes down, you think, oh my God, I lost all of this. It's crazy, right? But that's how it works. It's like when it comes down, it interprets this as it's lost all of this money here, right? So that's why I think it creates a negative association with trailing, because you're allowing the market to move to give you something and then you lose it. And so we have this natural negative association of like, oh, I don't like that. And so then you try to figure out what feels good, right? So I'm breaking down my actions right now. So first it was like, okay, that feels good. And now, but then when the part of trailing is you've got to endure both up and down, right? So I'm like, that feels good. That doesn't feel good. That feels good. This doesn't feel good at all, right? That feels really good. That doesn't feel good at all, right? And so so then the impulse is like, okay, well, how do I feel good? Like your brain's always seeking how to feel good in this situation. And so it's like, well, if I tighten up my stop more, maybe bring it in a little bit to profit, then at least I'll make a few bucks. That feels good. Making at least, knowing that at the very least, I'm not going to lose and I'm at least going to make a couple bucks, right? Which is what I did. Because it felt good because it didn't feel good what was happening, right? So I wanted to create a situation to ensure that I would feel good. Like you want to create insurance, but how do we rewire all of this, right? Okay, so how can we rewire this? So you have to look at the space. You can't look at the bars. You have to look at the space, right? So you have to look at what space was needed here in order for it to fill the space up here, right? You just needed a little space here for it to fill the space here. And you need a little space here for it to fill the space here. So you think in terms of, instead of thinking of like in the Tao, they talk about it's not the things that are important. The fluctuations are not important. It's the container that's important. It's the space that holds the things, right? And if you look at the market, right, it's made up of all these potential price points. Like the space, this is the space. You know what I mean? It can go, this is all the space it can move through, right? So you think of all this space to the upside, right? All this space to the downside, right? And so when you think from that perspective, you are just giving it this, when you have your stop, let's say here, you're giving it this little bit of space to grow into this, all this space up here, right? And that creates a positive association where like, oh, I just allow it this space. It needs this space. You think about how much the market needs this. It needed this space. You needed to give it this space in order to occupy this space, right? You needed to give it this space down here, right here, for it to have all this space here. And you see the difference, right? Hmm. So you have to think in terms of the space here and feel good giving it that space, the appropriate amount of space. And when you think in terms of the space you're giving, so that this to give it the space it gets, can achieve, right? Then it's like you want to give it just the right amount. You know, it feels good giving the right amount. It doesn't feel good giving it more than that because now you're like giving it all this loss potential. You don't want to give it too big of a bucket, right? You want to give it the right size. It feels good giving it the right size because then that allows it to grow into all this space up here, all this abundance up here. You're giving it that space to grow into, and you're just maintaining the bucket here. So now we move our bucket up, right, so that it has the space here, right, to grow up here, right? You got to think of the two spaces. So it has this space here to grow into this space up here. So now we've also well, yeah, so I don't think in terms of what captured, right? So when we think about what's transpired, right, that's how we get caught in emotions, is when we think of this in terms of gaining and losing, and right? But when we think of it in terms of like what space you're allowing it to give it to enact any moves in this space up here, so the space you give it for the space it can get, can achieve. The space you give to give it the space that you can achieve. That's when you start reframing from that perspective, then it feels good to give it that space, the appropriate amount of space. So you have to figure out some sort of narrative or viewpoint or perspective that feels good to do it the right way. And that allows you to do it more appropriately. That's it. Right? So you would exit here. Right. And here it's like, yeah, and in this instance, right, you didn't get much. Maybe got about a point or less. But if you keep doing this, you're consistent, then yeah, there'll be days where you don't make much. And then there'll be days where you make more, right? A lot of days where you make more. So it's going to vary. You know, the market's going to go through different situations. This was a very hyper extended trend, right? This was a strong trend. Like, it built that line there, and then it just kept going hard. So we were pretty hyperextended. So it makes sense that it collapsed pretty strongly here. But the key is in your system is to be consistent. So whatever your trade management style, it's going to have pros and cons to it. But the main thing is you got to believe in it. It's got to be a strategy or a style or a philosophy that feels good to you. And I like my pot analogy, giving the market the natural space, right, to do its thing. And then maybe that might not yield much, like today. But if I keep trying to change my management strategy, then it becomes difficult to execute it. You have to have some sort of style that makes it easier to execute. So I think this is a good time now that we've seen the progression of this. Let's see, okay, cool. And we've created this situation where, okay, it feels good to give it the 10 to its space to allow it to come to its natural kind of conclusion here. And now it's on to some other, now that's, we're 30 minutes in, it's on to some other program now. So, awesome. I'm looking forward to the next opportunity to tend to the space, right? To be a space tender. The next potential move, there's definitely no dragon diving, no pump and dump, no, we finish up the train. I removed the gun blade, actually. I found that there was only 2 examples of the gun blade, and one of them ended up actually being an overnight train, and the other one wasn't, but there wasn't really any justified context to validify the gun blade. It was just, yeah, it was like kind of in between like an overnight train and one of the jumps and dives, but it didn't have enough proper context, in my opinion. So I ended up removing it from the system. And I also removed the materia. So I don't have any trade or methodology for adding into I don't have any methodology for adding into a trade anymore. I'm just focused on entering into the trades. But the thing now is if there's multiple setups, like if there's, I don't know, if there's a overnight train and a dragon dive setting up, I can enter into both of those in their own unique way. And so that does become a double down. Okay, so we just got to close here. So that sets us up for, if this pulls back, we could get a hyper jump. We could totally get a hyper jump. The cool thing too about tending, right, so this could just blast off. When it was back here, this thing could have kept going. But the idea is, in order to do that, you've got to trail properly and give it the appropriate space to give it that potential to take space up here. And then if this doesn't work out, then okay, we move on to the next opportunity. You don't have to think about, at some point when you're happy with all the elements of your trading system, and then there's no more adjustments to do to it. You don't have to focus on adjusting it. You just have to work on aligning yourself with your system, and then do that through honing and practicing and practicing and practicing. So it becomes practice and align, honing and healing, honing and healing, honing. Healing to me is alignment. That, like when your bone is broken, it's misaligned. And so we have to align it and get it structurally sound again. That's what healing is, right? Same thing here. If my system says to trail and I'm like doing things differently, then I'm misaligned, like it's a broken bone. You could say my actions are one going one way and the system's going the other way. And so we have to create we have to add a cast and like a brace and all that stuff and let it rest as we look at the mechanic that feels good. We shift from, okay, what originally was feeling good, right, to we shift to, originally we're looking at this doesn't feel good, so we remove it in to feel good, but now we're changing it to trailing, giving it that space feels good because it allows it to have the potential to the upside here, right? And no more than that. That doesn't feel good. Making it too tight or too big doesn't feel good. You got to have it just right. You got to have that Goldilocks. And then we still captured a little bit of money here. and then in that potential trade, and then we're looking at 52.1. Oops. Like something like that. Whoa. This thing is wild. Yeah, so we need a pretty strong pullback. Oh, wait, let's see here. I think I need to sell. And 3, 8, 9, 2. Close this. And then we'll close out. I opened a Webull account to get a couple free stocks. And then I was like trying to transfer them. I forgot you have to close this. It's like so noob. I'm like, duh, you have to close your trades on the stocks. Some little cute stuff. Okay. Now we're flat. All right. Now, cash available to withdraw. What? Unsettled. Oh, okay. All right. So now I gotta wait for the. Gotta wait for the cash settlement of selling the stock sale. I think, which takes I don't know how many days. All right. but I made two portfolios. One was a buy and hold kind of pie where it's just like solid running stocks that have a really good track record, even in the crashes and stuff. It just holds strong. I found 10, and those are ones I'm just regularly putting money into, and and so they're just going to be the steady gainers. And then I have this other pie. I have this other pie where I bought all these like stocks that are at value, but they're rated as buys, and they have dividends. Both of these pies have dividends, but these are stocks more at value. And then I set a price target. So it becomes almost kind of like a position trade where as certain stocks hit their price targets, then I'll peel them off and then reinvest the profits and enter into a new stock to kind of keep it at 10. I don't know. I just like keeping it pretty even. And man, this value pie is kicking the buy and hold pie's ass. I honestly haven't been in it for super long, but the value pie is up 4.7%, and the buy and hold pie is up 0.8%. And in the value pie, specifically Altria, MO, on my portfolio is up 11.5%. That's pretty good. Pretty good. I guess it's been 3 weeks or so. Yeah, I invested initially, I guess, September 30th. So that's cool. All right. Well, I mean, we got a little bit of action early on with that overnight train. Maybe potentially we'll get a hyper jump. That really leaves only two options. Either we can get a hyper jump down here, or it turns back around, and then we could get a final high wind move. So there's two options. I'm gonna go get a coffee and banana, coffee and banana, a banana, and because it's gonna take some time for this to set up, so I'm gonna go do that. Yeah, and I will say I'm very stoked. The course right now, it's taking the shape of the element. It's going to be called the Spirit Master, and it'll be learning to develop how to develop the spirit of the master, so that you can use the spirit of the master to master anything that you want. And there will be there's different aspects, and they're contained within each aspect is called a realm, and in each realm there's different layers, and the first layer is the self. In each realm it's self-awareness, and then the layer out from that is self-expression, and the layer out from that is self-application. In each of the realms, you have different realms. You have the first, the inner realm, the first, the self-awareness is called remembering. So remembering who you are, because remembering is to bring to awareness, right? That's the definition of remembering, is to bring into the mind the awareness of, right? And so when you tie that to remembering self, then you're bringing to a mind the awareness of you, of who you are. And you're comprised of all these different things, right? You're multidimensional. And so one of these dimensional realms, like for example, would be presence, right? Would be the self, that would be the expression as presence. Right? And the self-awareness is awakening. To awaken, to be awake, right? To be conscious, to be, woke, right? And then to allow presence is when you can listen. When you're present, when you're being, you can listen, you can sense, you can touch, you can feel, you can hear. Everything's more clear. You're present. And the application of that, so what's going to happen is I believe I'm going to do it in two ways. There's going to be a core course that I want to tout as anyone can take this course to be a master, to develop the spirit of the master. It has no bearing necessarily on trading or anything in particular. It's just a general course. I want everyone to have access to be able to take this course. And I want to have it to be available for everyone. So there's going to be a standard price for people who can afford just a regular price. And if people want to if people can't afford that, like some people just don't have any money. So I want to create some sort of like a scholarship kind of thing where they can apply, kind of like with Burning Man, you can apply for like a cheaper ticket. then they can apply and get for a cheaper amount if their needs are in that area, right? I want to give to them. And if people want to take it further and they're traders, right, they want to develop their trading, there's going to be a trading add-on course. So it'll be the self-application exemplified through trading of everything that's taught in the main course, the Spirit Master course. So it'll be Spirit Master course, and then there'll be the Spirit Trader course. And then additionally, I'll have options for higher rollers too. Like, it could create bundled packages where, like, okay, you could, if you want, just to be a master, learn the spirit of the master, you can take the Spirit Master course. And if you don't have money, you can apply for scholarship. And if you're a trader, you can you can buy them individually, but I will sell the Spirit, or maybe I won't sell them individually. I don't know. Maybe it'll just be a bundle. It'll be, you can do the Spirit Master and the Spirit Trader together. And that'll be a little bit more than the Spirit Master course. But if you want to add on, if you want to really throw down, you could add on maybe a bundle of add on some coaching from me. I haven't really figured that out yet. I'm thinking about it, potentially offering some level of coaching just to see where people are at, and then help them with where they're at, in relation to the element of mastery, help them hone in with where they're at, whether they're working on their path or healing or honing in, getting just consistency, right? Or they're having difficulty just surrendering to the flow. Or they've made it, but they don't know what to do with their money, helping them figure out where to go, what to do, how to develop. Like, I just met a woman last Thursday at a gala for a fundraiser for the arts for kids. She just started a financial institution. She literally just opened it last week. She opened a financial institution where it's designed around working with high profile clients who have money, but they don't know exactly how to proportion it or invest it or organize it. And she also helps them figure out how to make social change with that money, like how to strategically utilize that money to be for philanthropy and to do good with it. I thought it was amazing. I was like, I will keep her in mind because I feel like, eventually I'm going to be there, and it would be nice to have advisors or people I could work with to help me with deciding the best way to work with that money. And if people came into my course, right, and they had that level of money, then I would be able to steer them to the right masters to help them with figuring that out. So, but the main thing in my course is about, I have the concepts, right? And I'm applying these concepts of mastery to become a master trader, following the path of the master. And I wanted to share these concepts with everyone and to help them on their journey where they're at with their trading. This thing is flirting around this top part here. Oh, and I want to get coffee too. Meow, meow, meow. All right. I'm going to leave it on this cliffhanger. Really, really close to overbought. And I'm going to shut the stream off, so you'll have to find out tomorrow what happened. Dun-dun-dun. All right, so you stay tuned for Chapter Tuesday. All right, have an amazing day. Bye.